Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and welcome to the Gameweek 3 episode of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid, the series where we look at the most popular players both in and out of your teams and what we should be doing with them. If you do enjoy this series, please do drop a like, really does help out the channel, and make sure you're subscribed for daily FPL content. Let's have a quick look at the rules of the video. So buys are players you probably don't have but should consider bringing in, sells are players you probably have but should consider removing, keeps are players you might be thinking about removing, but I think you should keep them, and finally avoids are players that are pretty hyped up right now, but I think they are potential traps and should be avoided despite their popularity. So guys, we're going to have 4 players in each category, we're going to have 1 player in each position in each of the categories, loads to go through guys. Let's get started, but first of all, a recap on last week. Okay, so I'm going to have to be honest with you guys, last week didn't go quite as well as hoped. We got 10 out of 16 right in terms of the immediate returns. In terms of the buys, it was a difficult game week. It was a very difficult game week in general to get points. A lot of us did see ourselves on the lower end of the point scores. We didn't see too many 70 or 80 pointers this week, so just a generally lower scoring week in general, which is one of those things. Of course, we predicted that the likes of Sanchez, Chilwell and Jackson would be good transfers in. Unfortunately, it didn't quite happen against West Ham, but with Luton up next, I feel like those players can still come good. Our sells, Raya, Trippier, Trossard, Wilson, smashed them. Our keeps, Ramsdale definitely worked out. Stones, unfortunately, was injured after I recorded the video, so I'll take the L on that one, but he could have had a 6-pointer if he was starting. Rashford disappointed, but Watkins did get a nice assist in that game. Finally, our avoids, all 100% accuracy on that one. All of the avoids from last week were blankers, so I'm glad I kind of said don't go for these players because it turns out that none of them scored anyway. So, in general, I feel like considering it was a very, very difficult game week, one of those low-scoring game weeks, I feel like we did okay, but definitely not a successful game week if we're just looking at that 1-week period. But let's see how some of those Chelsea buys get on against Luton Town because that could change everything. On to our Game Week 3 buys. We're going to start you off with Ederson. So I do feel like if you want to go for a Man City defender, well, I think it's a good time to do it. And whether you're going for Ederson or Gavardio, I think they are both really good ways of getting involved in the Man City defense. I would say Ederson is your safest bet. He is 5.5 million, which is a little bit of a high price. And I don't always like a goalkeeper transfer, but if I was on a wild card right now or desperately needed to remove my goalkeeper for whatever reason, I would be looking at Ederson as my favorite replacement there because you just got that nailed on. Clean sheets pretty much every single game. We've got that hard Newcastle game out the way as well. So now we've got the likes of Sheffield United, Fulham, West Ham, Forest. We're expecting clean sheets. You would not be surprised if Man City went through the first 6 games of the season with clean sheets in every single one of them. And that's going to mean a decent amount of points for Ederson. If you get 6 points a game for him, that's brilliant. And you can probably do the same with Gavardio because it looks like he, moving forward, is going to be the kind of the most nailed on, I would say, of those Man City defenders at the 5 million price tag. Obviously, he's coming for a lot of money. He is going to be wanting to play the majority of games here though, so I feel like he's a pretty safe pick to go for, a little bit safer than a Kanji, much more safer than the likes of Walker or Ake. Of course, if you want to spend 5.5 and go for Diaz, I don't even know if you get a more nailed on player for 5.5, so in that sense, I think right now that we know Gavardio is in the team, he's ready, he's playing games for Man City, he's hopefully just going to continue that all through the season. So he would be my my defender to buy this game. If I could buy any defender right now, if I've already got Chilwell, if I've already got those Stupinian already, those amazing players, the third player you want to go for, Gavardio was a good shout, right? Maybe Rico Henry as well, maybe Malo Gusto, but yeah, Gavardio is definitely a big shout. Keeping it on the Man City theme, our midfield buy is going to be Phil Foden. And I did have Ødegaard here originally. I do think Ødegaard against Fulham next and on penalties is definitely worth a mention. I did want to give him a quick shout out, but overall, if I'm buying a new midfielder for this game week, it's probably going to be Phil Foden. And I know a few people are worried about rotation, players coming back to fitness for Man City. Man City looking to sign some new players in the attacking positions as well. All of that is happening, yes, but what we got to look at here is the immediate term. And the immediate term is that Man City, the best team in the league, is about to play Sheffield United, who we know are going to struggle this season, and then Fulham, a team that has just been absolutely diabolical at the back. So bad at the back to the degree where they're really struggling against teams like Everton. They're struggling against, Brentford, kind of a sort of a more mid-table team. Now imagine Fulham, if they're struggling so much against Everton and Brentford, what's it going to be like against Man City in game week 4? It's going to be be an absolute disaster for them. So, Phil Foden, if you want to capitalise on the Man City availability to get goals and get attacking returns, you can only do so much with Erling Haaland in your team. You're going to have to bring in a second attacker there and really take advantage of these. So, after Sheffield United, after Fulham, we're going to have some slightly tougher fixtures after that. West Ham away is not ideal. Nottingham Forest is a little bit better, but certainly in that short-term period, there could be some serious scores from Phil Foden. He could score some really nice points, and then if after that, if rotation does become a problem, you take your points and you run. You sell Foden, you move on to the next big thing. That's what FPL is all about, really, right? And yeah, you can see Foden has been putting up some decent numbers as well. Decent amount of shots, decent amount of XG, creative as well. Really, really good start to the season for him. Nicholas Jackson also putting up some fairly decent numbers here. 1.14 expected goals over the first 2 games of the season, which is really, really decent. Fair enough, he hasn't got the FPL points. 1 point in each game so far. Quite unfortunate, really, considering he actually isn't doing so bad. I know some people are going to be a little bit hesitant about picking a player who's only scored 2 FPL points so far this season. But remember, guys, it is Luton at home. It is a Nicholas Jackson who is nailed on the kind of the kind of front and centre of the attacking moves that Chelsea are making. We've got these really nice fixtures for 6-7 game weeks. Chelsea's got so many good fixtures in a row. Then I think Jackson is definitely a player who can capitalise on this. Plus, he's only 7 million, pretty decent price as well. I think it's a good pick. I would not be worrying too much about his past points because what we want with our buys is future points. And I feel like Nicholas Jackson is a player who will be getting points in the future. Don't usually like a goalkeeper to sell, but considering we're doing a goalkeeper sell every week now, I feel like Jordan Pickford would probably be a goalkeeper I would consider removing from my team right now. Disappointing start for the season for Everton. Obviously, once again, it does look like they're going to be dragged into another relegation battle. They're conceding a lot of chances. They have not shored up defensively at all. And yes, they've got a couple of good fixtures on paper. Wolves, Sheffield United, but I have to say, Wolves are actually generating a lot of chances recently. The first couple of games, they have been creating chances. So I do feel like, even though it looks like a good fixture on paper, I do think they'll still score against Everton. Sheffield United, you might be looking at a clean sheet there, but after that, Arsenal, Brentford, these are not ideal fixtures for Pickford anyway. So fixtures are mixed, but even in the good fixtures, you don't really back Everton right now. So if I had to sell a goalkeeper, probably would be Pickford right now. Also be looking to sell Trent Alexander-Arnold. No value for money whatsoever from our good Liverpool friend here. It's just not been good so far. Look, his XG and XA, there is a little bit there. There's something there, but it just doesn't justify that 8 million price tag, particularly when you consider how poor Liverpool are in defence these days. They just don't look like keeping a clean sheet ever. And you can see expected clean sheets 0.25 in 2 starts. So not very good stuff there, to be fair, from the Liverpool boys. I would be a little bit worried about that. We've got Newcastle away next. In general, Trent, I think it's time to cut your losses on that bad boy. Downgrade him to a cheaper defender. Upgrade other areas of your pitch. Trossard is going to be a sell once again. I feel like you just have to capitalise on this Arsenal game against Fulham, and you're going to need the best Arsenal players to do that. Trossard, unfortunately, has just not found himself in this Arsenal starting 11 and has barely got any minutes off the bench either so far. So, pretty easy sell considering there's so many great midfielders to go for right now that I'm sure you guys are having a close look at. Likes of, Mitoma or Mbumo or Solly March, or maybe some of the other guys like Phil Foden, Luis Diaz. There's just so many around this kind of 7 million price tag that we really, really like the look of right now. So Trossard, I would be looking to remove him from my team. I would be hoping to get another Arsenal player in, ideally, for this Fulham game. But that guy is just not going to be Trossard, unfortunately, unless a miracle happens and he starts starting some games. I just can't see it necessarily. João Pedro is also going to be my sell here. I do think there is a chance he starts against West Ham, to be fair. But after that, we've got some difficult fixtures in Newcastle and Man United. Even West Ham is not exactly the easiest fixture in the world. But we know now that João Pedro is not nailed on. He's started one game. He has been on the bench for the second game. You know, it's a little bit up in the air. Even that first game, I think we got a little bit carried away after game week 1. We saw he scored a penalty and got a decent amount of points for 5.5 million. And everyone kind of went a bit crazy about him. And that's understandable. 5.5 million for a penalty taker in Brighton. That's amazing. until we realise he's not nailed on. We see the manager's comments saying that João Pedro has a little bit of work to do with kind of his running, his work rate maybe in this Brighton team, and he's not nailed on. And Ciso can come in, Lallana can come in, different players can come in and play that role as the second striker instead of João Pedro. And we're probably going to see a decent amount of rotation, particularly when European football starts, and that is getting closer and closer. So I would be, if you know, I'm one of you guys who owns João Pedro, I would potentially be looking to move him on. There's a lot of good forward options to go for right now. Nicholas Jackson, as we mentioned already, maybe Yohan Wissa, or maybe Julian Alvarez if you want to take advantage of those Man City fixtures as well. So 3 really nice options there that do look a lot better on paper than João Pedro going forward. So yeah, overall, sell João Pedro as well. Couple of players I'd be looking to give one more week. Ramsdale against Fulham. He's still the main starting goalkeeper for Arsenal, and he got points last game week. So why he's one of the most sold goalkeepers this game week, I have no idea. But maybe some of you guys can enlighten me as to why you are selling Ramsdale. But Fulham and Everton in the next 3, they do look like good fixtures, and there's no real indication that Ramsdale's going to start being benched for Raya just yet. And as long as you've got a decent 4 million goalkeeper that can maybe just come in and deputise for one game week if it goes wrong, after that happens, after we see Ramsdale starting to be removed from the team, then fair enough, that would be a good time to sell him. But that time has not happened yet, and I don't think I would be looking to sell him. So far, so good for Ramsdale. I don't think there's too much wrong with him, and decent fixtures to come. Luke Shaw, I would also be looking to give one more game week. He's got Nottingham Forest at home in game week 3, which is a decent fixture. And you can also see, guys, on screen, Luke Shaw has got some decent numbers. He's actually creating quite a lot, 0.6 XA so far. So he is being creative, not really taking too many shots there, but he's doing decent creative numbers, and overall his kind of expected attacking involvements are actually slightly better than Trent Alexander-Arnold's right now, despite the fact he's 5.5 million and with a much better fixture. So would not be desperate to remove Luke Shaw this game week unless I was removing him for either Chilwell or a Stupinian. Those would be the only 2 players I would remove Shaw for in my game week 3 team. Another Manchester United guy I would be looking to give another chance to is Bruno Fernandes, and for good reason as well. I mean, I really do want to bang the drum here on the underlying numbers on Bruno Fernandes, because I know there has been a kind of an idea that Bruno Fernandes is not getting FPL points. Is it because he's playing deeper? Is it because he's just not involved in the attack as much? Is it because Man United aren't attacking as much or aren't getting as many chances to score and things like that? Well, actually, that's not quite the case. We've actually already seen Bruno Fernandes in just 2 game weeks generate 0.47 expected goals and 1.05 expected assists. So that is actually some of the highest numbers in the Premier League so far. His underlying numbers are actually, you know, really top of the pile, or towards the top of the pile at least, which is very, very impressive. He also could have had a penalty in that Spurs game as well. Overall, I feel like Fernandes, maybe I'm just saying this to make myself feel a little bit better, but I feel like Fernandes has been one of the most unlucky picks so far. Now, I wouldn't say quite the same thing about Rashford. Rashford hasn't been putting up particularly good numbers either. So I wouldn't say Rashford is as unlucky. I would say Rashford is just turning out to be not such a great pick right now. So if I had both of those players, I had to keep one of them, I would be keeping Bruno Fernandes because he's been so far so good. Really impressed with some of these numbers. And I feel like in a nice, easy fixture against Nottingham Forest, perhaps he will be able to do the business a little bit more. After that, if it doesn't work out against Forest, then by the time we get to this Arsenal away game, we kind of may have to hold our hands up and say, all right, these Man United players are just not in form. They can generate brilliant numbers, but I still don't trust them. And that would be fair enough. My second keep is going to be Nicholas Jackson again. I feel like I'm kind of cheating in a way, but Nicholas Jackson is also one of the most sold forwards in FPL for Game Week 3. And I don't agree with that one. So I think you should actually be buying him, not selling him. So wanted to reiterate, if you are a Nicholas Jackson owner right now and you have been disappointed by his score so far, do not give up on him yet. He's about to play Luton, and he is going to do very well in that fixture. So calm it down. It's all good. Have faith in your pick. It was still a good pick. Just hasn't gone to plan so far, but doesn't mean it won't go to plan in the future. My goalkeeper avoid is going to be Areola. It's not that I necessarily dislike Areola as a pick. If I was on a wild card right now, I possibly would have Areola as my second goalkeeper. But there are a few factors here at play. First of all, Areola is the second most popular goalkeeper transfer in the world for Game Week 3. He's a super, super popular transfer in. And one of the reasons people are doing that is because they want to just go with 2 4 million goalkeepers. They've got Turner and they've got maybe Pickford, and they want to replace their Pickford or whatever other first-team goalkeeper they have as their first goalkeeper. They want to replace him with Areola and play with 2 4 million goalkeepers. Now, anyone who played FPL last year will know that that went terribly. It's basically like accepting, I just don't want any goalkeeper points, because really, 4 million goalkeepers are 4 million goalkeepers for a good reason. And we've got fixtures like Brighton away, Man City at home, Liverpool away. If you're playing Turner and Areola over the next 4 game weeks, you really think you're going to get very many FPL returns? I really doubt it. I really, really do. But if you're having Areola as your second goalkeeper, fair enough. But I wouldn't waste a transfer on it. And I would not be looking to play Areola in game week 3, 4, 5, 6 probably. Maybe play him in game week 4, but that's about it. So not really worth a transfer in my opinion. And I do want to point out that, yes, Areola scored very well last game week. 10 points, I believe it was, in game week 2. But remember, that's because he saved a penalty. And if he didn't save that penalty, it's not like, you know, he pulled off an amazing save. It was a poor penalty from Enzo. If that was a better penalty and Enzo kind of replicated some of the penalties he's taken in the past, then suddenly Areola is going to score 2 points in that Chelsea game. And suddenly he's on 4 points total for the season, and nobody is talking about him. So I do think that there's fine lines in FPL sometimes that kind of make the difference between everyone's talking about Areola. If he didn't save that penalty, nobody would be talking about Areola. So yeah, is he really worth the transfer? Not in my opinion. Romero is a bit of a harsh avoid on my part, because actually I'm feeling the upcoming fixtures for Spurs are actually not too bad. I don't mind going for Spurs defenders, even though their defensive numbers are pretty poor. But I would not be going for Romero. No way, Jose. And a lot of people I've been seeing kind of in my comments saying, wow, Romero is a great pick. I'm going for him. I don't know why anyone's going for any other Spurs defender. Romero's the one. He scored the most FPL points. And that's fair enough. He scored a goal in game week 1. By the way, that was his second goal in the Premier League in 3 seasons, or in his 3rd season for Spurs. So it's not like he scores very regularly. He doesn't really get too many assists either. He's not an attacking player. And I feel like a lot of people going for Romero, and Romero is a super popular transfer in this week. A lot of people transferring in Romero probably aren't watching the games, because if they did, they would know that Udogie, Destiny Udogie, for 4.5 million looks brilliant. He looks amazing. His underlying numbers are better than Romero. When you watch him on the pitch, he is so far forward all the time. Looks absolutely brilliant. Looks absolutely crazy. And there's no way you'd be taking Romero over Udogie at the same price if you'd watch these Spurs games. There's no way. It's becoming more and more common knowledge that Udogie is going to be an absolute baller in the Premier League. And you can get him for 4.5 million as well. So Romero, I do think there's potential for him to get points in the upcoming game weeks. I really do. And when we review these picks next week and Romero scores points, I want to remind you guys that it's not because I don't think Romero's going to get points. It's that I think Udogie for the same price is such a better pick that there's no reasons to go for Romero. So let's see what happens there, and let's move on to our final avoids. Our final avoids are going to include Rodrigo. Once again, yes, we're putting a Rodrigo in the avoid section again, for good reason, because people are still buying him. People are seeing these upcoming fixtures from Man City and saying, Rodrigo, he scored a lot of FPL points, must be a good pick. Some people even saying Rodrigo, the next Gundogan. Well, if Rodrigo is the next Gundogan, why is it that in game week 2, he had 0 shots, 0 chances created? He did nothing, nothing, because he's a defensive midfielder. That's his job. He's a brilliant football player, but he's not an FPL asset, unfortunately. So a regression to mean, back to normal for Rodrigo, for Rodri in a game week 2. We're not going to see a situation like game week 1 very often. It was fortunate circumstances that led to him being kind of very in advanced positions directly after set pieces. You know, it was two set piece. Got a set-piece goal, a set-piece assist, really. It's not going to happen every game, particularly for a team like Man City that don't typically rely on set-pieces to get attacking returns. So, Rodrigo, still not a good buy as far as I'm concerned. And I don't care what anyone says. He's not the new Gundogan. He's a defensive midfielder, and he's really good at it as well. Possibly the best defensive midfielder in the world. Why you'd want to play him further forward is beyond me. João Pedro, also putting him in a void, just because I have to admit to you guys, it was super hard to pick an avoid for the forward slot. A lot of the most popular forwards that people are bringing in right now, all of them, I can kind of understand why people are bringing them in. I thought about putting Nketiah in this slot, but although I wouldn't buy Nketiah personally, he does have Fulham next, so maybe that could come off. There were some other players like all kinds of players. Awani, bad fixtures, but hey, he's been doing well so far. So yeah, don't really know who to avoid in terms of forwards. I think there's a lot of forward options to go for, and you can't really go too wrong with any of them, really. So yeah, avoid João Pedro because of the rotation risk. Aside from that, go crazy. So in summary, guys, I would be looking at mostly Man City, Chelsea and Arsenal players to bring in this week. And I would be looking to maybe give our Man United guys one more week to redeem themselves. After that, they're on the chopping block. Fair enough. But definitely those Chelsea and Man City guys, and possibly Arsenal as well against Fulham, that's going to be where the high scores are going to be this week, I have a feeling. So target those players, keep those kind of players, and then let's see what happens. Let's roll the dice of FPL. You never know 100% what's going to happen, but you can make a good prediction. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you did enjoy this episode of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid, please do drop a like. It really helps out the channel. And do subscribe if you are new around here as well. Don't forget to check out Fantasy Football Hub. There's a link at the top of the description for 50% off. All of the Opta stats in this video were gathered from that website, so you can try out that tool for yourself. And if you're bored, you want a little bit more FPL content, why not check out the video right there? Could be a pretty good one. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching once again, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.